When it comes to annuities and lifetime withdrawal benefits, I don't give a dang about the roll-up rate. I don't give a dang about the upfront premium bonus. I don't give a dang about the end payout factor on that annuity. What I do give a dang about is that end number, that end income number that I get, and how does that look from a internal rate of return standpoint, from a cash flow standpoint. Now, for a lot of folks that are not familiar with the notion of internal rates of return, let me give you an easy example. Let's say that we put $100,000 into an investment. And let's say that 2 years later, we got back $112,000. So we got basically a return of $12,000 over 2 years. Now, the folks that may view this pretty simply, well, really simply may say, well, that's a 12% internal rate of return. No, because it's over 2 years. Those that maybe view internal rates of return a little bit simply may say, well, then that's a 6% internal rate of return, because you get 6% 1 year, 6% the next, and that'll give you your $112,000 2 years later. No, that's still not correct, because you have to take into consideration compounding. So this is where internal rates of return come in. Technically, the internal rate of return to get 12,000 2 years later of growth, it would probably be somewhere around 5.7, 5.8%, right? Because you have 100,000 and that grows to whatever, $105,800, and then compounded on top of that, another 5.8% roughly. That'll get you your $112,000. So that is the internal rate of return. Said another way, if you were in an investment to where that rate compounds on top of itself year after year, what is that rate of return? And that is how we analyze cash flow. And that cash flow, the only part of the annuity that I care about, at least with income-focused annuities, is that in cash flow. None of that marketing crap. Well, you got a 10% roll-up. It's just that your payout factor in the end is like 2%. Well, that's not a good annuity because that payout factor is crap, right? I care about the end result. Now, let's talk a little bit about the internal rate of return on my annuity. I use this example a lot. So last year, I bought an annuity, and I use this example because it puts myself in the shoes of the client, and it allows me to look at this the way that I should, as in, if I were a client, what really appealed to me, right? So I put $200,000 in it, times zero when I was 46 years of age, and then the goal is, the plan is 19 years later, I'm going to activate that annuity's income, and that is $44,000. Rock solid, guaranteed. The insurance company is going to guarantee me and my wife for both of our lives $44,000 per year. Now, I may not live 30 years into retirement, but my wife probably is. And yes, I said probably. Some of you folks out there that are anti-annuities may say, well, that's a probably, which means that, this is pie in the sky, hypothetical stuff. This is the risk of longevity, and this is what insurance does. This is longevity insurance is what it is. And if I'm using just a small portion of my portfolio, then why not have that longevity protection here, especially if the end internal rate of return is going to look pretty darn good without reinvestment risk. Oh, well, bonds today are paying whatever, 7% if you go a little riskier on the spectrum. Well, but do you have a bond that will guarantee that for the next 50 years? There's something called reinvestment risk, but I digress there. So over 30 years in our retirement, $44,000 paid out per year. That is $1.32 million. But how we started this conversation with all that time going by and then taking into consideration compounding, what would an investment otherwise need to do in order to do that? Because some of my fellow CFPs that poo-poo annuities might say, oh, well, large cap stocks have done 10% since the beginning of time. And unless your internal rate of return is beyond 10%, then don't even talk with me about it, because my wizardry can help my clients retire with that type of cash flow. Can you guarantee that? No, you can't guarantee that. Plus, even if you could perform at 10% like large cap stocks have done since 1926, it doesn't go up 10% every single year. And we all know that when a portfolio is fluctuating up and down, and you're taking income from it, I really don't care what the average return is over the long run, because that's not going to necessarily reflect what sustainable income you could take from it. So the question that we look at here, or the answer that we're looking for, is, okay, so what is the internal rate of return on that cash flow? And I saved it for the end here. It's 6.01. Given that somebody lives 30 years into retirement, given the $200,000 investment, which is what we did, given that I activate the income at age 65, is that a bad thing? No, obviously it's not. I bought this policy for myself, and I look at it like, if I can guarantee myself an additional $44,000 paycheck on top of our Social Security, on top of all of our other assets, which are a lot more than what we have here, right? On top of whatever, my wife has a pension plan. And if I can guarantee, at least given a 30-year time span in retirement, a 6.01% return, is that a bad thing for a portion of our portfolio? Is that a bad longevity hedge? No. And I'll tell you, 6.01% internal rates of return on these annuity cash flows, they're the highest that I've seen them in the 25 years or so. That GLWBs have even been around